Hey folks, Dave Asherbrenner back again. Wanted to show you, this is going to be a little shorty technical video on annealing aluminum. And we're going to talk briefly about the types of aluminum that you can anneal and you can't anneal. And the two types we generally use around the shop here is pure aluminum, which is 1100 series aluminum. And there are some designation numbers after that, but for the most part, 1100 is pure aluminum. And the other designation after that is the hardness of it, and which is characterized by an H. So H14 is, I believe, half hard, and it usually comes that way, half hard. And you can anneal it. You can actually make the aluminum down to a zero hardness or softness, whatever you want to say. But we try to get our 1100 in zero hardness, and our 3003 is the other type of aluminum that is in an H series or hardness series. And we always get that in or we like to get it in an H14 half hard. And we make seat pans, the actual seat pan itself, out of that because it's very stiff and hard and durable. And we can also take it down to a zero. So we can take that, we use that for like tank bottoms, the tank tunnels, the bottoms of the tank. For the most part, we can like zero in on the parts that need to be bent and soften those up by annealing them. So, and that's just a real brief synopsis of the aluminums. The rest of the aluminum is tempered, or it has a T value to it. Let's say 6061 T6 or T3. That's a tempered thing. So we're not going to get into that because we don't use any of that here. And basically, to take a temper out of something, you do the opposite that you do to soften this. Now, all of this H series aluminum is hardened by work hardening. So in other words, in the factory, when they take a billet of aluminum, a giant big billet of aluminum, and they roll it back and forth in one direction and then back again the other until it is pretty thin. And by the time they're done with that, it's hard. It's hard as a bell. And they also will quench it to soften the aluminum down to the lower H values in there. That being said, when you're rolling the aluminum back and forth on those big rollers, it's only stretching it out in one direction. And what that does is it causes a grain to the aluminum, and once again, we'll get into that in another series here, but I just wanted to kind of show you this neat little trick of annealing the aluminum. A lot of guys, I've given talks already in front of large mechanical groups and guys, and I always say, okay, who here knows how to anneal aluminum? And all their hands go up. And okay, do you guys anneal it with a acetylene torch? All the same hands go up again. And I go, well, you're doing it wrong. And there's really no right and wrong, and I don't want to, bust anybody's chops for doing it that way. There's just a better way of doing it. And I actually discovered this myself, and this all came from experimenting with the color crayons, where the melt crayons, the temperature crayons, where it's a wax that melts at a certain temperature. So you get the metal heated up, and then you hit it with the crayon, and if it doesn't leave a mark, then you heat it up some more, and then you keep at it like that. And I thought, well, why not? Why wouldn't they have a crayon that you can just write on it, and when the crayon goes away, it's the temperature that you wanted it? So that's what led me down this path right here. So what I found out, this is real neat, and I see other people doing it now. I don't know if these people learned about it from my thing, or I don't really care. I don't need to be taking credit for this, but this is one of the things I discovered just through attrition, just trying all kinds of other stuff. And that's how a lot of lessons are learned that really sink in and stay up here. But I'll take right here these little pen Sharpies. I don't know if the solution is the same. The ink is the same ink that they use in the larger ones, But like the indelible markers, you'll find the indelible markers are the ones that smell like, I don't know, they smell like acetone or something when you smell them. These smell more like vinegar when you smell them. They got a different, little different flavor to them. So I know these aren't the indelible type. I don't know. I've never tried those. If it works, don't change it. This is what I use. You'll see I use a red and a black on here, and it's really a formality to use the red. The black is really what I want to go away when I'm heating this up, but the red kind of cues me in on as I'm creeping up on that temperature. We're getting between 600 and 700 degrees, and the red starts to turn amber. It starts to go away. It'll all of a sudden just disappear, and it's gone. Now, if it weren't for the black, we wouldn't know where we're at. As you're heating the red up even hotter, you have no indication of what the temperature is on this. But I actually took a laser thermometer and kept after it. In fact, I had to take it's a special laser thermometer because the infrared ones, maybe it was the infrared one, I'm not sure. When you hit it, it reflects off the aluminum. So I had to actually buy a special thermometer for that. Once I used it and I understood what I was doing with this, I hardly use that thermometer anymore. But the black will disappear on here. And one more tip, we're going to have the torch going. You might not be able to hear me while I'm talking. If you heat the outside of this, the heat goes to the inside. Well, I should say, if you're heating this piece, the heat is dissipating out around the outside of it. So it'll remain the hottest in the middle, and this will cool down faster. So as you're heating it up, it'll heat up, and the heat will stay in the center of it. And you want to be careful you don't burn the aluminum. You see a big dull gray spot in it, that means you burned the aluminum. You've basically separate the structure between the molecules, the aluminum molecules in here. You just don't want to do that. Makes it harder to work with. A lot more chance of it breaking through when you're trying to shape the piece of aluminum. So you just want to make it sure it's all uniform. And you want to have for this, a quench bucket would be nice. I don't need to waste that much water. I've got a faucet that's got a sprayer on it. We're just going to take it in and quench it on that. But you want to uniformly quench the whole piece at the same time if you can. So a mud puddle out back, or a hose with a spray nozzle on it where you can control it to a fan nozzle, and then just hit it, and the aluminum, it'll bounce off the aluminum, and finally you'll see where it's starting to wet the aluminum is where you're annealing it, and you want to move out quickly if you can. But the center is going to be the hottest on here all the time, and we're just going to watch for this black to go away on here. So just follow along. I'm going to get the torch set up. I'll come back in a second. Okay, this is a relatively small piece, so I'm using a smaller headed torch. What I normally use on big pieces like gas tank halves and gas tank bottom pieces, or anything that's quite large, I'll use one of the big weed burner. They're about 3 inches in diameter here. They can really put down a hot flame fast. This one, we're going to put a flame, we're going to concentrate it a little bit more. It's going to take a little longer maybe than normal. So we're just going to keep doing that, and I'll show you what's happening to the aluminum. And I will give you an example in a later video, because there's no way I can, all by myself, I can get this over to the sink, reset the camera up. But we'll give you another example of that at some point. So, and we love gloves for this. It gets a little hot, that flame starts deflecting off everything. Grab a glove. You want to hold these pliers way back. That flame deflects off of this and gets pretty hot. So here we go. Watching for the tip of the blue. The blue tip. Keep it moving. Be afraid to one spot for a second. The middle starts to go away first. So we're going to favor the outer extremities of it. The red's going away. Keep that flame moving. Now with the soot method, the soot acts like insulation. If you have it on too thick in some spots, you're going to have some harder spots on your aluminum. This one you can see the wires are soaking up some of that heat on there. I'm going to hit that pretty hard. Alright. Black is gone. Now, next little thing we got going on here is the aluminum gets real shiny just before it burns. Just stay on the outside of it. Don't go to the inside. That'll burn right inside there. We're going to take it in the bathroom and quench it. I got a big utility sink. Never forget to do this. And never forget to do this. Okay, that way we don't have pressure in the hose built up. What really softens that metal up is I'm going to try to explain this, something I learned in science class. I think I was still in grade school, maybe I was in high school. The molecules are moving fast and they take up more space. They need the space to move around. Hence, whenever you heat something up, it gets bigger or longer. And what you do when you quench it is you freeze those molecules in the spot where they need all that room. And as soon as I hit this with the water, you can see this, the droop in this, the warp in this. As soon as I hit it with the water, it just relaxed like that. And what that's doing is kind of sealing in that, how easy that is to bend. You're sealing in that state that the metal gets to when you bring it up to that temperature. So it's pretty simple. I'm not a scientist. Anyway, this is basically the way you really want to anneal metal. As I stated before, the soot, if you put a little too much soot in one spot on it, you're hitting it with an acetylene torch, which is really intense heat. You're heating it up awfully fast. I like more of the gradual approach at heating it, and when you quench it, you want to quench it fast. So more chance of burning your aluminum or having hot and hard spots in the aluminum afterwards if you use the acetylene. Plus, acetylene's a lot more expensive. That cylinder right there, that'll last me for weeks and weeks and weeks. And acetylene isn't cheap. A little trip down to the welding shop to switch out acetylene tanks or get them recharged is quite expensive compared to swapping this out at one of those little convenience store parking lot things here. So it's available at all times of the night. Whenever, if you run out and you're in the middle of a job or something, you can head down to the local 7-Eleven and swap out one of your canisters over here. So anyway, that's our little deal for the day. This is a big thing. If you're doing any work with aluminum, this is a very important thing to learn. Annealing metal, and which metals you can anneal and which ones you can't. So I appreciate you coming by. We've got another little action-packed video we're doing for you. We've got some finished tanks that we're going to go through. We're going to go over, and I just thought I'd show you this. So once again, Dave Aschenbrenner, thanks for stopping by.